In the heart of Onyeba City, where the buildings stood tall like proud trees and the roads forever buzzed with cars that gleamed like diamonds, lived a woman who refused to ride in any of them. Her name was Nkechi Iwoma. She was one of the richest people in the country, owner of over 100 buildings, several oil blocks, and businesses that stretched beyond borders. Yet every morning people saw her walking. Not with guards, not with drivers, not even with an umbrella when the sun was too hot. Just walking, quietly, lowly, alone. She dressed like a regular person, sometimes in faded wrapper and blouse, other times in simple trousers and shirts. Her shoes were flat, her hair tied back with no fancy wig or makeup. If you didn't know her, you would think she was one of the street traders or school teachers. And that's how she liked it. Some said she was mad. Others said she was cursed. After all, who walks in Onyeba when you can drive a G-Wagon? But the truth was stranger. Nkechi didn't care what people thought. She believed in something very few understood. That wealth is not for showing off, it is for walking humbly with. She gave freely to hawkers, sat with beggars, and helped women carry baskets in the market. Even children ran to her, calling her Mama Onyeba. Still, not everyone smiled at her. Some people laughed behind her back. "See this one," they would whisper. "Is she not the billionaire that doesn't own a car? Maybe her money is fake." Even worse, rumors began to spread. Some said she had powers. Others said if you mocked her, something bad would happen to you. People became afraid but also obsessed. That was how Ifeanyi Eze, a 23-year-old journalist at City Echo News, found herself chasing after Nkechi one bright Tuesday morning. Ifeanyi had never written a story that made headlines. She was young, hungry, and tired of writing about potholes and politicians. When she heard of the walking billionaire, her curiosity exploded. "Madam Nkechi," she shouted, running across a busy road with her camera and notebook. "Please, just one question. Why do you walk?" Nkechi kept walking. She didn't even turn her head. She simply helped a small boy tie his loose shoelace by the roadside and continued on her way. Ifeanyi didn't give up. She dodged between cars, waved her ID badge, and tried again. And then, bim! A motorcycle sped out of nowhere and hit her. She rolled across the tarred road like a rag doll. People screamed. Car horns blared. The motorcycle rider vanished into the crowd. Blood trickled from her forehead. But Nkechi turned back. She calmly walked to the bleeding journalist and knelt beside her. She tore a piece of her wrapper and pressed it to Ifeanyi's wound. Then she whispered something nobody else could hear. That afternoon, Nkechi paid Ifeanyi's hospital bill in full. She visited her every evening for the next 5 days. Whispers in Onyeba grew louder after that. Some said the journalist had been punished by a spirit for trying to chase Nkechi. Others said the accident was just that. An accident. But those who believed in the curse swore that if Nkechi didn't want you close, something would always push you away. No one could prove anything. But people remembered another strange event that had happened 3 months earlier. That day, a group of armed men had waited outside one of Nkechi's buildings. They were dressed like electricians, but their eyes were restless, their shoes too clean. They stood at the corner, pretending to fix wires, but anyone watching closely could see they were up to no good. When Nkechi appeared, walking down the road as usual, the men tensed. One whispered into his collar, "Target in sight." But as she passed them, something strange happened. All their phones died at once. A loud crackling sound filled the air. The sky suddenly turned dark, as if a cloud had passed over only their heads. One of the men dropped his screwdriver and ran. The others followed. They didn't say what they saw, but they never came back. And when one of them was caught weeks later in a robbery gone wrong, he was asked what happened that day. He only whispered, "I saw her shadow, and it wasn't human." Nkechi said nothing about any of it. Not to reporters. Not to the police. Not to anyone. She kept walking. And Onyeba kept watching. It was during one of her walks that she met Zina Obi, the one person whose life would change forever because of her. Zina was rich. Not comfortable rich. Not fine girl rich. She was the only daughter of Chief Dyke Obi, owner of Obi Technologies and 3 high-rise buildings in Onyaba. Xena drove a bright gold convertible car. She never walked, not even from her house gate to her car. She wore imported perfume, glass heels, and designer sunglasses even in the rain. She had a social media page with over 200,000 followers, where she posted pictures of her food, her hair, and sometimes her pet snake named Gucci. To Xena, poor people were like background noise. Annoying but always there. That was why, when she saw Nkechi trying to help a young girl cross the street, Xena didn't slow down. Instead, she pressed her horn hard and shouted through her window. "Move out of the road, you dirty woman. If you're not ready to die, better walk faster." The girl gasped. Nkechi turned. For a second their eyes met. But Xena zoomed off. Later that evening, Xena posted about it online. "Almost hit one mad market woman today. People should learn to stay out of the way if they're not driving." The comments poured in. Some laughed. Others clapped. A few asked, what if she was someone important? Xena rolled her eyes. "Important people don't walk," she replied. She didn't know that the woman she insulted was Nkechi Iwoma. She didn't know that her father had been trying to set up a meeting with that same woman for months, hoping for a business partnership that would double their company's value. She didn't know that the meeting had been fixed for Friday. And she didn't know that her father had picked her to represent him. When Friday came, Xena stepped into the glass tower of Iwoma Group Holdings, heels clicking proudly, a folder in one hand and a fake smile on her face. She had never been there before. The receptionist, Ngozi Uday, took her name and called upstairs. "Miss Obi is here to see Madam Nkechi." Xena stood in front of a mirror and adjusted her dress. "Let's blow them away," she whispered to herself. The elevator opened. She stepped into the top-floor office. And her heart froze. There, seated calmly behind a wide wooden desk, was the woman she had screamed at 2 days ago. Same headscarf, same eyes, same calm. Nkechi Iwoma looked up from a file and said, "Good morning, Miss Obi. You are here to speak on behalf of Chief Dyke." Xena couldn't speak. Her throat dried up. She wanted to melt into the floor. Xena Obi stood frozen. The office was silent. Too silent. She had stepped into that tall building with pride and perfume, but now her chest felt tight, like someone had pressed a block of ice against her heart. She stared at Nkechi Iwoma, the woman she had insulted days before on the street. The same woman her father now hoped to do business with. The same woman who owned the company where she now stood. Xena tried to smile. She failed. "Gee, good morning," she stammered. Nkechi didn't blink. "Please sit." Xena sat, her legs suddenly shaky. Her folder slipped from her hands and scattered on the floor. She bent to pick it up, papers fluttering like embarrassed wings. Nkechi waited. Silent. Watching. When Xena finally settled, her voice was barely above a whisper. I'm here on behalf of my father, Chief Dyke Obi. He asked me to speak with you about a possible partnership between your real estate branch and Obi Technologies." She forced a weak laugh. "He believes our companies could create something powerful together." Nkechi nodded. "I've seen your father's proposal. His numbers are impressive." Xena's heart lifted. "But," Nkechi said, folding her hands, "I don't partner with people whose character I cannot trust." Xena blinked. "Sorry. You insulted me on the road," Nkechi said plainly. "You shouted at me, called me dirty, mocked my appearance. You didn't know who I was. That's fine. But you treated someone who looked poor as if they were beneath you. That is not a mistake of ignorance. It is a failure of heart." Xena's mouth hung open. Nkechi continued. "I won't sign anything with your father. Not because of his numbers, but because the face he sent to represent him, his daughter, is not someone I can build with." Xena opened her mouth, then closed it again. Tears stung her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't know it was you." That's the point, Nkechi said. Even if I was poor, I deserved kindness. Xena nodded, too ashamed to speak. Tell your father what I said, Nkechi added. He'll understand. Back in her car, Xena sat in silence. She didn't start the engine. She didn't call her father. She just sat there, replaying every word in her mind. Then her phone buzzed. Calling Dad. She answered. Hello. Did she sign? Chief Dyke asked sharply. Xena swallowed hard. No, Daddy. She refused. There was a long pause. What did you do? Xena took a shaky breath. It's complicated. I insulted her on the road 2 days ago. I didn't know who she was. It was a mistake. His voice dropped like thunder. You insulted her. Xena said nothing. You embarrassed this family, he exploded. Do you know how long I've been trying to get that woman's attention? Do you know how much we've lost because of your mouth? I said I was sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this. If you want to learn what it feels like to walk, then fine. I'm cutting you off. No driver. No house staff. No credit cards. No car. You will learn the meaning of humility. Xena gasped. You're joking. I'm not. Until you become someone I'm proud of, you are on your own. Blick. Xena's world crumbled that evening. Her father meant every word. Her bank app showed 0. Her car was taken. Her house key didn't work. She had never used a bus before. Never bargained with a street seller. Never walked more than 10 minutes without someone holding an umbrella over her head. Now she had to learn how to survive. Xena slept at her cousin's house for 3 nights before the shame became too much. I'm not homeless, she muttered. I'm just learning. She remembered Nkechi's words. Even if I was poor, I deserved kindness. So she decided to go back to the very place where her pride had broken, Iwoma Group Holdings. But this time not to talk about business. She wanted to apologize properly. Try. Xena arrived early. She wore a simple long skirt and an old t-shirt she borrowed from her cousin. She joined the line of people waiting to enter the building. Cleaners, delivery men, staff in cheap shoes. When she got to the front desk, she said, I'd like to speak to Madam Nkechi, please. The receptionist, Ngozi Ude, looked her up and down. Do you have an appointment? No, Then stand aside. Xena stepped aside. Just then a cleaner entered, holding a mop bucket. Ngozi turned to Xena and said, Follow her. There's short one person in the cleaning crew. You look the part. Xena's mouth dropped open. I'm not. Ngozi rolled her eyes. Then stand outside. Xena hesitated. Then, she followed the cleaner. The cleaning team handed her a mop and directed her to the top floor. Clean Madam Nkechi's office first, they said. Xena's hands shook. She had never mopped a floor in her life. She entered the large office. It was silent just like before. She dropped to her knees and began scrubbing the floor. Her eyes filled with tears. What am I doing? She thought. Is this how low I've fallen? But somewhere deep inside, another voice whispered, no. This is how high you'll rise if you listen. The door opened. A step. Xena looked up. Nkechi Iwoma stood in the doorway. Their eyes met again. This time Xena didn't look away. She stood slowly, mop in hand, tears on her cheeks. I came to say sorry, she said. Not because I want anything. Just because you were right. Nkechi stepped into the office. Xena continued. You told me character matters. I didn't understand before. I was raised to believe status is everything. That rich people don't walk. That poor people are invisible. But the truth is, I was the blind one. Nkechi didn't speak. Xena looked down. I thought power meant being above others. But when you refused to insult me back, you showed me real power. Nkechi walked to her desk and sat. Tell me, she said softly. What do you want now? Xena wiped her face. I want to start again. From the bottom. With no special treatment. I want to learn. Nkechi studied her carefully. Then nodded. That was how it began. Xena became an intern. She joined the lowest department, filing documents and sorting papers. She took buses to work, ate lunch with the other interns, wore plain clothes and carried water in an old bottle. People laughed at her. Some whispered behind her back, "Is that not Chief Obi's daughter?" But Xena didn't care. She was learning something far more valuable than pride. She was learning to see people, to respect their stories, to walk like Nkechi Iwoma. Xena Obi used to wear silk. Now she wore office polos with faded trousers. She used to eat at rooftop lounges. Now she queued with other interns at the buka beside Iwoma Towers, where a steaming plate of rice and beans cost less than her old lip gloss. She used to scroll through her phone all day, posting selfies. Now, her fingers ached from sorting files, updating spreadsheets, and carrying stacks of documents between departments. Still, Xena never complained. Not once. Every morning, she arrived early and swept the hallway near the HR office. Every evening, she helped the janitor pack up without being asked. When a senior staff scolded her for mistakenly misfiling a client folder, she bowed her head and said, "I'll do better." People started noticing. "She's different now," whispered one manager. "She even greeted me today, first time ever," another said. But not everyone was impressed. Ngozi Uday, the front desk officer who first mistook Xena for a cleaner, was annoyed. "She thinks this is a movie," Ngozi told her friend during lunch. "Acting humble like that. Humph." But Nkechi Iwoma was watching. Not through cameras, not through reports, through moments. One day, while walking past the reception, she saw Xena helping an elderly cleaner carry a broken mop bucket. She said nothing, just watched. Another time, she heard Xena apologize to a security guard she had once shouted at during her first visit. Still, Nkechi said nothing. Because change should be proven, not praised too soon. Xena kept working. One Wednesday afternoon, she found herself alone in the archives room, dusty and hot, with no fan. She sat cross-legged, sorting files from 10 years ago. Her hands turned gray from old paper dust. Her stomach growled. But she smiled. Because for the first time in her life she felt useful. No one called her princess anymore. And strangely, she didn't miss it. As she packed the last box for the day, someone knocked softly on the door. It was Ifeanyi Eze, the journalist who had once been hit by a motorcycle while chasing Nkechi's story. Now she worked part-time in the communications department, still walking with a slight limp but with a fire in her eyes. "Hey," Ifeanyi said. "Need help?" Xena blinked. You're talking to me." Ifeanyi smiled. "I see you in the building. You're not who you used to be. That's worth talking about." Xena grinned. "Thanks. I'm trying." "Trying is how all great stories begin," Ifeanyi said. And just like that they became friends. Weeks passed. Then came a Thursday that cracked Xena wide open. She had been asked to prepare a presentation for her department's quarterly report. It wasn't a big meeting, but it was important. She stayed up all night researching. She wrote notes, practiced in front of a mirror, wore her best office shirt, even ironed it herself. But when she stepped into the meeting room, Ngozi Uday was there, serving drinks to the managers. Ngozi smirked. "What's she doing here?" "I'm presenting the quarter's report," Xena said. Ngozi laughed. "You, the cleaner girl." The room fell silent. Xena's face flushed. One of the managers cleared his throat. "Miss Obi is an intern in data reporting. Let her proceed." Xena looked at the screen. Her hands trembled. Her mouth dried. But she took a deep breath and began. She spoke clearly. She explained the data with calm and confidence. She showed graphs, told stories behind the numbers, and even made one of the managers chuckle. When she finished, the room clapped lightly. Her boss nodded. "Well done, Xena." Ngozi looked like she had bitten into lemon. After the meeting, Nkechi's assistant approached Xena. "Madam Nkechi wants to see you tomorrow. Privately." Xena's heart jumped. The next day, Xena walked into the top-floor office for the second time in her life. This time not to beg, not to apologize. Talk. Nkechi gestured to a chair. Sit. Xena sat. I've been watching you, Nkechi said. You've changed. Xena nodded quietly. You cleaned my office floor, wore borrowed clothes, and carried mop buckets. You walked through shame and kept walking. Tell me, what did you learn? Xena looked down at her hands. That humility hurts, she said. But it also heals. I used to think people without money were weak. But they're strong. Stronger than me. They wake up every day, fight to be seen, and carry the world without thanks. She swallowed. I had everything. But I had no character. I see that now. Kechi leaned back. I had a daughter once, she said softly. Her name was Chizaram. She was the light of my life. Strong, beautiful, brave. Xena listened, eyes wide. She was 18, Nkechi continued. And one day, she begged me to let her drive herself to school. Just once. I agreed. I even gave her my car keys, smiling like it was a rite of passage. Her voice broke slightly. That evening, a truck driver ran a red light. The crash tore the car into two. Chizaram died before they reached the hospital. Xena gasped. I blamed myself, Nkechi whispered. For giving her the keys. For not walking her to safety. He paused. Since then I stopped using cars. Not because I'm cursed. But because walking makes me feel close to her. Xena's eyes welled with tears. I'm so sorry, she said. Nkechi nodded, eyes distant. You remind me of her. The fire. The fight. And the fall. She looked at Xena. But also the rise. That evening, Xena sat on a bench outside Uwoma Towers. She watched the street sweepers, the street food sellers, the children chasing each other barefoot. And for the first time in her life she saw people, not obstacles, not noise, people. She touched her chest, where her old pride used to live. It was gone. But in its place, something better was growing. Compassion, strength, character. The sky over Onyaba City looked different these days. Especially to Xena. She had started walking. Not because she had to anymore. But because it reminded her of everything she had learned. The city's noise didn't irritate her like before. The slow walkers, the street calls, the women selling corn under umbrellas. All of it now felt like part of a song she had never really listened to. A month after her meeting with Nkechi Iwoma, Xena received an email. Subject: Appointment. From the office of Madam Nkechi. Xena Obi. Please report to the 14th floor boardroom by 9 a.m. sharp tomorrow. Executive office. She read it 3 times. The 14th floor. That was where real decisions were made. The next morning she arrived early. Wore the same skirt from her first week as an intern. Repaired now but still neat. Her shoes were scuffed but clean. When she stepped into the boardroom, her breath caught. Nkechi sat at the head of the table, her calm presence filling the room. Beside her were 3 senior managers and a young man with a laptop. They all turned as Xena entered. Good morning, Nkechi said. Sit. Xena obeyed. Do you know why you're here? No, Ma. Nkechi nodded. We've been watching your progress. You've handled every task with humility and consistency. That is rare. Xena held her breath. I'm offering you a full-time position, Nkechi said. Not just as staff, but as my direct assistant. You'll shadow me. Learn how I run this company. If you prove yourself, the door is open to leadership. Xena blinked. Why me? Because the girl who drove a golden car would never have asked that question, Nkechi said. But you did. And that means you're ready. That week, Xena moved into a small studio apartment, paid with her new salary. No house help. No driver. Just her and a fan that buzzed in the night. She woke up by 5 a.m. daily. Caught a kiki to the office. Reviewed schedules, answered emails, arranged meetings, and sometimes stood by Nkechi's side like a quiet shadow. She watched Nkechi make tough decisions with a still voice. She saw her treat janitors the same way she treated foreign investors. She noticed that Nkechi listened more than she spoke, and when she finally did speak, Her words landed like solid stones in still water. Xena absorbed it all. And slowly the old Xena, spoiled, quick-tempered, impatient, was replaced. Not with someone perfect, but someone aware. Then came the day of the broken window. Started like any other Friday. Xena was organizing files when she heard glass shatter. Everyone jumped. A brick had been thrown into the front lobby. A note was tied around it. Security quickly locked the gates. Staff huddled near the reception. Xena picked up the note. It read, "This company hides behind clean walls, but some of us remember. Return what you took, or we break more than glass." Xena looked up at Ngozi Uday, who had gone pale. "You okay?" she asked. Ngozi nodded stiffly. I don't know who sent that." But her hands were shaking. That evening, after most staff had left, Xena walked past the cleaning closet and saw Ngozi inside, crying softly. She paused. Part of her wanted to ignore it. But another part, stronger, knocked on the door. "Can I come in?" she asked gently. Ngozi wiped her eyes and nodded. Xena entered and sat beside her. "I used to think you hated me," she said. Ngozi laughed through her tears. "I did." Xena smiled. "Why?" "You reminded me of who I used to be," Ngozi said. "I was proud once. Beautiful. People chased me for my number. But I lost everything. My husband, my house, my status." She looked at Xena. "Seeing you fall felt like justice. But watching you rise, slowly, painfully, it broke something in me. Made me see myself." Xena touched her hand. "We're all trying," she whispered. "None of us have it all together." Ngozi nodded. "That note. It's from my brother. He worked here years ago. He stole from the company and was fired. He blames Nkechi. I think he wanted revenge." "Tell her," Xena said. "She'll understand. She won't trust me after this." "She trusted me," Xena said. "After all I did. Why not you?" The next morning, Ngozi stood in Nkechi's office, shaking. Xena stood beside her. Ngozi confessed everything. When she finished, Nkechi looked at her for a long moment. Then said, "Return what was lost and build from here. Forgive you. But I won't forget. Make sure what comes next is better than what came before." Ngozi wept. And Xena realized something deep. Forgiveness isn't weakness. It's strength with a soft voice. Few weeks later, something unexpected happened. Xena's father, Chief Dyke Obi, walked into the building. He looked tired, older, his hair grayer than before. He asked to see Nkechi. Xena was in the office when he entered. He froze when he saw her. "So, it's true," he said quietly. "You work here. As a staff." Xena nodded. "I started over." He turned to Nkechi. "I'm sorry for her behavior that day. I was too proud to apologize before. But I see now. Your decision taught her more than I ever could." Nkechi simply said, "Character is the true wealth." Then she looked at Xena. "What do you think? Should we give him a second chance?" Xena hesitated, then said, "Yes. If he's ready to build with people, not above them." Chief Dyke nodded, humbled. "I am." After that meeting, Xena stepped out of the office and took a deep breath. The world felt big again, but not in a scary way. She had walked through shame, silence, hard work, and heartbreak. But now, she had found a strength not even her father's money could buy. The strength of a heart, broken wide open. The day Xena Obi became Chief Operating Officer of Iwoma Group Holdings, she didn't arrive in a convoy. She walked, in flat sandals, with her old laptop bag, through the same dusty street where she had once insulted a woman she thought was poor. Now that woman was her mentor, and the company's founder, Nkechi Iwoma. Xena's promotion wasn't sudden. It came after 2 years of rising through every level. Intern, assistant, junior analyst, department head. She earned every step. She had no shortcuts, no family favors, no announcements, just sweat, mistakes, lessons, and small wins. By then even her father, Chief Dyke Obi, had changed. He sold 2 of his buildings and opened a school in the slums of Ajigunal. He no longer introduced himself with titles. He simply said, "I'm Zena's father." People now clapped for that name alone. Nkechi was still the same. She still walked every morning through Onyeba City. Still carried sachet water in her hand. Still greeted hawkers by name. She refused to be driven. Even on her 60th birthday, when foreign investors offered to gift her a custom Rolls-Royce, she smiled and said, "Thank you. But I walk. That's how I remember who I am." The city had changed too. People no longer mocked her for walking. Now they took pictures from a distance. "Look, that's Mama Onyeba," they whispered. Some even left their cars to walk beside her, just to hear her stories. But one person followed her not for stories, but for thanks. It was Ifeanyi Eze, the journalist. She had grown into a powerful voice in media. Her articles no longer chased scandal. They told human stories, about people who changed, people who fell, people who rose again. One of those stories was about Zena, titled, "The Girl Who Learned to Walk." It went viral. In it she wrote, "In a world where status is louder than silence, Zena chose to start over quietly. Where once she looked down, now she looks forward. She didn't just walk the road of humility. She became it." Zena never returned to the old life. Even when she could. She still ironed her own clothes. Still greeted janitors first. Still ate umla in the buka downstairs on Fridays, laughing with Ifeanyi and Ngozi Ude. She led her department with firmness, but never shouted. When new staff whispered, "That's the COO," others would reply, "Yes. But don't be deceived. Her kindness is stronger than most fists." One rainy evening, Nkechi called her into the office. "I'm retiring soon," she said. "And I want you to lead." Zena froze. "I can't fill your shoes," she said. "I don't want you to," Nkechi replied. "I want you to walk in your own." She stood and reached into her drawer. She handed Zena an envelope. Inside was a photograph. A young girl in school uniform. Hair in puffs, bright eyes, peaceful smile. "This is Chizaram," Nkechi said softly. Zena touched the photo gently. "She would have been proud of you," Nkechi whispered. Zena's eyes filled. "She already lives in you," Nkechi added. "And she will walk into the future through your steps." 3 months later, Nkechi stepped down. Zena became the new CEO. Not because she was the richest. Not because she had the highest degree. But because she had walked. Because she had fallen and gotten up. Because she had been broken and still chose to be kind. On the day she was announced, Zena stood at the company gate. Staff, press, friends, strangers, all gathered. A reporter asked, "What would you say is the secret of your success?" Zena smiled. Then looked at the street behind her. Where a small boy in slippers helped an old woman carry her bag. Where a bus conductor gave change with a joke. Where a barefoot child sang while selling oranges. He pointed. "There," she said. "That's the secret." The crowd turned confused. Zena continued. "You want to lead? First learn to walk there. Learn to see people. Hear them. Feel the dust. Smell the sweat. Understand their story." He paused. "Success doesn't come from stepping on people. It comes from walking beside them." The applause didn't stop for minutes. Years later, a statue of Nkechi Iwoma was built in Onyeba City Square. Not in high heels. Not beside a Rolls-Royce. But in simple slippers. With a walking stick in one hand, and a child holding the other. The plaque below read, "She walked with wealth, but never above the people." And just beside it, in smaller letters, was another name. Zena Obi. Because every legend needs a student brave enough to become one. If you have not subscribed to my channel, you might not hear my voice again. But if you are, then you are growing every day. Check my page for more interesting stories. Thanks for watching.